Hey, check up. Let's play some D. Welcome to episode 34 of Play Some D. This right here, ladies and gentlemen and ladies, this is my weekly, usually weekly, installment of four, maybe five topics I place in quarters of current, random, mostly current events, random thoughts, sports, news, music, politics, current events. I said that already. Yeah, man, variety is the spice of life, and that's what you get here on Play Some D. That's what this is. Play Some D with me, Coach D. So this week there was a couple of things that I reviewed. What album did I review last week? I reviewed something last week. I don't even remember, honestly. I totally forgot. But I was gonna review Adele's 30. I'm not gonna do that. I didn't have enough time to sit with this. So I probably just won't review it at all. But I will be talking about the Rittenhouse trial. I will talk about Apple's right to repair ish and just the concept of right to repair. Also speak on I this is probably one of the first episodes I've done where this is latest and breaking news. Billboard just dropped its, I think it's yearly. I don't think they do a yearly of their all time top 10 all time songs, artists, boom boom pow. I'm gonna talk about that, and I'm going to talk about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving will probably be something I'll talk about every single year, so it might be a topic that some people might just skip. I'll probably talk about it in all different ways, shapes, or forms, given the circumstances. But this year, as I always like to do, holidays, certain days, history of Thanksgiving. I'll just chop it up and move on to the next bop bop doo bop. But as always, if you don't mind, hit the like button. You like the content, like it, you don't mind, subscribe to the thing. And as always, hit that bell icon for those post notifications so you know when these videos drop. But without further ado, we're going to hop in the first quarter. And first quarter, of course, is Thanksgiving, and that good old tradition, that controversy, that family, that I don't know, traditions, rituals, holiday of it. Just it's a lot to unpack with Thanksgiving. I mean, I could have made this whole 34 about Thanksgiving and really just dive into all the different aspects of it. And yeah, it's just, I don't know if it's totally necessary, because I think overall the thought of Thanksgiving, at least in the concept of United States and how we treated it, is good. But history is important because you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're gonna go. I do believe that that's totally true. This year it falls on November 25th in 1621. The Plymouth colonists and the Wampanoag, I said that totally wrong, shared an autumn harvest feast that is acknowledged today as one of the first Thanksgiving celebrations in the colony. For more than 2 centuries, days of Thanksgiving were celebrated by individual colonies and the states. It wasn't until 1863, in the midst of Civil War, that Abraham Lincoln made it a national holiday. Now, the Thanksgiving at Plymouth is where it all gets, pilgrims and things of that nature. Um, it's That's where you could kind of dig into, that's the history of it. That 1621 is where you go and find all of the worrisome things about, how Thanksgiving got started. But I won't really touch on all that. That's all where you can kind of dig into. um I'll read a little bit of this. So throughout the first brutal winter, most of the colonists remained on board the ship, where they suffered from exposure, scurvy, and outbreaks of contagious disease. Only half of the Mayflowers Original patrons and crew lived to see their first New England spring. In March, the remaining settlers moved to shore, where they received an astonishing visit from members of the tribe who greeted them in English. Several days later, he returned with another Native American, a member of the tribe who had been kidnapped and sold into slavery before escaping to London and returning to his homeland. He taught the pilgrims, weakened by malnutrition and illness, how to, corn, extract sap, trees, catch fish, etc., etc. So then in November, the Americans' first Thanksgiving, they put it in quotes because, the pilgrims themselves may not have used the term at the time. The festival lasts for 3 days, while no record exists of the first Thanksgiving exact menu, but much of what we know about what's happening comes from the Edgar Wilson wrote, what they all ate. So, and yeah, that's all the gist of it. And like I said, I think, the history of where everything comes from is important, and digging into, the things that happened following is, that's kind of the deep dive of, Native Americans' land being stolen, being tricked into dinner and killed and slaughtered, or whatever the case may be. That's all you could dig into. There's many different, So Thanksgiving became a national holiday. Pilgrims had their second Thanksgiving celebration in 1623 to mark the end of a long drought that had threatened the year's harvest and prompt Governor Bradford to call for religious fasts. Days of fasting and Thanksgiving on an annual or occasional basis become common practice in other New England settlements. And then during the American Revolution, designated one or more days of Thanksgiving a year, George Washington issued the first Thanksgiving proclamation by the national government of the United States. Came in the Constitution. In 1827, the noted magazine editor Sarah Haley, nurse who rhymed Mary Had a Lamb, launched a campaign to establish Thanksgiving national holiday. There's stuff behind everything. So that Abraham Lincoln eventually, got it there. Thanksgiving traditions and rituals in many American households, the Thanksgiving celebration has lost much of its original religious significance. Instead, it now centers on cooking and sharing a bountiful meal with family and friends. Turkey, a Thanksgiving staple so ubiquitous that it has become all synonymous with the holiday. May or may not have been an offer when the Pilgrims hosted, the feast in 1621. Obviously, that's... Oh, yeah, we're 400 years, right? 400 years. So I guess that's a good time to celebrate it. Today, however, nearly 90% of Americans eat the bird, roasted, baked, or deep fried. Parades. The parades are actually cool. I think the parades give it a little twist. The holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, it kind of gets you in a little mood. It's cool to see the themes and all that stuff. So it not, with that being said, American households, it's lost what it was, but I think it's okay because of evolution from the history of it and what may or may not have happened or results of Thanksgiving. It has evolved into what, like I said, what I think is mostly a good holiday. I think it's one of the more pleasant, the more enjoyable holidays that we have now, and it kind of makes a little bit of sense. And it's just it can be stressful, I guess, as far as the cooking goes. When one's family gets there and everybody relaxes and just chit chatting and hanging out, it becomes one of the days that's a little bit different than the rest to me. So as I mentioned, the Thanksgiving controversy. For some scholars, juries still out whether the feast at Plymouth really constituted the first Thanksgiving in the United States. You know, historians have recorded other ceremonies of thanks among European settlers in North America that predate the Pilgrim celebration. 1565, Spanish explorer invited members um, to dinner in Augustine, Florida. Some Native Americans and others take issue with how the Thanksgiving story is presented to the American public, and especially to school children in their view. The traditional narrative paints a deceptive, sunny portrait of the relationship between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag people, masking the long, bloody history of conflict between Native Americans and European settlers that resulted in deaths in the thousands. That's kind of the dig on it all, is that the when you look at the Indian America, that timeline, um, some people feel like Thanksgiving was just a way to creep in and whack the Indians. But like I said, that's all for however you want to kind of analyze that situation. This article talks about some ancient origins, and obviously Egyptians, Greeks, Romans feasted. They did their things. A lot of what everything that modern day civilization does is based on a lot what went back on is there. So that also can be dug into. But Thanksgiving, like I said, overall is just one of those holidays that I think is cool. I think it's a good tradition. I do think people should know, dig in as far as they want and understand, where why things are done, and being okay with adjusting them. Like I'm not a huge fan of turkey and eating macaroni and cheese and all that stuff on Thanksgiving. I'll have a little bit of taste of stuff, but for the most part, I still gonna eat kind of how I want to eat or how I'm feeling for that day, or I'll make food depending on it. Obviously, if I go to somebody else's house, I'm not walking in their door like, "Hey man, where the steak and shrimp at?" I'm not doing that. But if if I'm cooking, or if it's a year for me, like I'm gonna make some ribeyes and some green beans, and I'm gonna make some collard greens. I'm gonna make that type of stuff. But that's probably as far as it's gonna go. I mean, the rest of it is whatever. But that's kind of what my taste is. I was kind of feeling some tacos, but another day, another time. So yeah, Thanksgiving is right on. Oh, and football. Can't really, nowadays football. I almost talked today about the Detroit Lions and Thanksgiving. That might be next week, because that game is probably gonna be a massacre. Well, actually, no, they play the Bears, right? They both suck. But Detroit Lions have to get off the TV for Thanksgiving. NFL, it has to happen. Like, has to happen. All right, so second quarter, we're going to pop into the Rittenhouse trial. It is the idea is that if somebody kills somebody, you kind of want some kind of repercussion for that. That's the big lens looking at the situation from the outside looking in. Everything obviously got captivated and polarized, because that's just what happens nowadays with things of that nature. But laws in place and laws as they are, it looks like everything went how it probably should have. I mean, with the videotape and things of that nature, him getting attacked, whether he went there to egg somebody on to shoot them or not, that's really hard to prove, especially in the city that it happened in. Obviously, if it was somewhere else, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, something like that, just it also depends where you are. It's not a 100% representation of America, but when you lay down the laws, the jurors probably did the right thing for the young guy. I don't know of his character. It seems like he was out there to cause some issues. I don't think he was out there to kill anybody. I don't know though. I mean, I haven't looked into the person of him or tried to dig in that far. It's not really necessary for me to do. But I guess the charge that is the interesting charge is the gun charge of a minor having a gun in Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin or Kenosha. You gotta be 21, but the charges was dropped because minors to possess shotguns and rifles as long as they're not short barreled. Um, so the minimum barrel length allowed under state law for them to dismiss the charge. That would have been a misdemeanor. So that probably would have I would have hit, and that probably wouldn't have got him much, but it would have got something. But it does feel like when somebody does kill somebody, something should happen. There should be some kind of significance because that when you step back again, is that you allow either parties when unrest or something happens to bring guns in the picture, and then to be able to, whether in this case is right or not, but to be able to manipulate or possibly manipulate a story or a situation, and get to shooting people, or if a bunch of people are walking around with rifles pointing them at each other at the Wild Wild West, think that's just silly and goofy. Not cartoons. People have lives, and just walking around with guns and trying to provoke each other to see who shoots first could absolutely happen. And I just don't think as many tough guys are on the internet or think nobody wants to be shot, and shot and maybe have to suffer, shot in the lung or kidney or kneecap or whatever, and wait for it. Nobody wants that, and I think it's just silly. So you just gotta be careful with when things like this happen. Is that when the next civil unrest happen, because it will. When the next protest happens, I still think it's idiotic for them to show where they are 15. But how many more people do this the next time, and how it play out based on these charges. That was the idea too with the January 6th riots. Like, you got to get these people, because next time there'll be more people and more people and more people. So you got to be careful with what you let people get away with, because give people an inch and they will absolutely take a mile. So at the end of the day, I guess the best way to put it is that if you want things changed, I think Chris Christie said this on Bill Maher's show last Friday, is that if you want things to get changed, you have to, the laws have to be adjusted and fixed accordingly. And I totally agree. Whether that will happen or not is another thing. A lot of people want and try to get laws changed for years and years and years that never get changed, based on who's in power and who can, flex their political muscles and things of that nature. So he's right, but he's also wrong that it doesn't just happen like that. Where in some cases like this with guns and people getting shot, and this is unfortunate situations that should never happen. The laws in certain situations just aren't conducive to make sure that everybody's safe and everything is fair too. So it was interesting. The Ahmaud Arbery jurors are going in on that one. So two kind of polarizing cases, with the Rittenhouse one kind of going against what people thought that something would happen, is it could make people feel a little uneasy. But the charges and how I had read them, with the first degree reckless homicide and endangering safety, first degree reckless endanger of safety, like that's the one that I thought would catch, if any of them. The intentional homicides, I don't think that either the intentional homicides and the first degree reckless homicide, I just don't know if those apply. But the reckless endangerment of safety, you could see something there. like the state asked the jury also be instructed on a second-degree reckless endangered safety, inclined to give the additional instructions on a lesser charge. So, you know, those, like I said, when you ask for a second degree, you kind of see where that one could kind of lean in. But, based on where they were and things of that nature, everything sneaks through. So yeah, it's a big trial. It was important to safety and what's next in the United States. So we'll see how much this does carry over to when. It's not if, it's when something else happens. So it is halftime, baby. Halftime. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm an IT guy though, but I've always repaired my stuff. If I had the time to. I guess that's the best way to put it. If I've had time that I feel like I want to repair my iPhone, repair my laptop, repair my computer, crack stuff open, I've done TVs, I've done monitors. I mean, you name it, mouse, keyboards. I've cracked open a little bit of everything. And nowadays with a YouTube video, you're probably in good shape, but it does take some time and it's a little bit tedious and you could screw something up. But that should never be the case when a third party person is giving you advice on somebody else's product. So if Samsung, Apple, whoever puts out a product, they should have some kind of manual. It just should be that way. You buy something, you own it, you should be able to fix it. Whether the whole idea of if you open this, you void the warranty, blase. I don't know how all that should go. I'm indifferent either way, but I do think everybody should have the opportunity and the wherewithal from the person, the people, the company that made the product to allow you to try and fix the product. So I just think this is long and far overdue. So Apple's repair program is going to start with the iPhone 12 and 13. It's rolling out in 2022. And then the M1 Max and the company will make repair manuals available, which you should review to see if you're up to the repair. That's kind of the key thing. Like I said, if you're up for it, you gotta have time. You gotta have the know with all idea, and then just that non-scariness. I don't know how to say it, but you can't be afraid to break something and mess something up because it's always a possibility. I mean, I've been under 3 or 4 phones and I've put them back together and said, "Oh man, I really hope this thing cuts back on," and they always have, and not just iPhones, other phones too, but putting a screen in the laptop and be like, "Man, I hope I put that connector in the right place," which you probably did, but you gotta have that understanding and wherewithal and patience and time mostly. If you don't have the time to do it, you'll rush and you'll break, and if you snap a cord or something like that, or a sensor pops out, good night. You buying a whole new phone where, that's probably more expensive than if you would have had, Apple or whoever replace it. So it's just time. I mean, the only issue with this is that this does come from a it's happening because I think it was a Los Angeles court. I don't see. Let me see. It turns out shareholder group that believe the timing of this announcement is tied to a court decision on a resolution asking Apple to reverse its anti-repair practices. The group was poised to bring the resolution to the SEC this month, but has since withdrawn it based on Apple's actions. Apple's saying that they were going to do it anyway, but that's, they were only going to do it until they probably had everything in place to do it, but they were only going to do it until, something like this came up and were forced to do it. The only thing that sucks is that, everybody's with new stuff, that's kind of why we get, the warranty. Like, new stuff we're probably, iPhone 12 and 13 we're probably not fixing. It's probably under warranty. We'll probably send it back. It's the older stuff. It's the stuff that we feel like that's still usable, that may have a cracked screen or a bad button or a bad port that could just be replaced out, charge port or something like that. So really having the old stuff is how they should be doing it. But it makes sense because they recycle all that stuff, give it back to us, we'll resell it, whatever. But that's where people really want their, be able to fix their old Macs and old computers. That's what I think most people would want. But eventually, iPhone 12 and 13 will be old. Those MacBooks, these Macs, M1 Max, MacBook Pros, they will be old. So there will come a time where this will come in handy, but Apple is just doing the slow rollout. And for the people that also the people that get their hands on this stuff first, they'll be the ones making the YouTube videos first. They'll be the ones, they'll be the ones making the content and getting the upper, hand, helping people. If, say, we don't even know. I don't even know if we know what the repair manuals will look like. They may look crazy and just, that lingo that you don't even understand. I doubt they do, but you don't know. The manuals could look silly and be very unhelpful. So that's always a cause of concern. But the idea that it took this long into the tech and information era to be even just touching the idea of being able to it not being and to any type of anti-repair practices by any, that should not even be a word. It should not even be a thought process of a way of doing things. Like, people buy your products, let them fix their stuff. Like, that's, it's like getting, a pair of sneakers or something and be like, you can't wash them. We got to wash this leather a certain kind of way. Like, nah, I could deconstruct just like you constructed it, whether it was a robot or human. Let me get the opportunity. Punks. All right, so fourth quarter is my first breaking story. This dropped as of today. I think it's pretty cool. Something fun to talk about. So I don't see any history of how they're ranking these. Well, I guess it's no history. It's just, it is what it is. So that's what I was thinking about earlier. But it's basically not necessarily the one I really totally want to talk about, but we'll start here with the greatest all-time Hot 100 songs, top 10. I don't know what this song is. Everything else, I feel like the Justin Timberlake Troll song should be on here. But this can't be number one, right? I guess it's a long record-shattering run. Okay, so I guess it's just based off of its run on the top 100. So I'm not against that at all. Like, that's totally fine. So these are the songs that had those runs, but this was a jammer. This was an incredible song. Incredible. God, that was a great song. I think I heard this song. Actually, I know I heard it. I can't think of how it goes, but I definitely heard it. these two, I think I heard this one, but this one, I mean, maybe I did just have to hear it again. But yeah, I'm just shocked. I'm just shocked to see that as number one for sure. And even the weekend, I don't think shocking. So this was the one that really popped. Actually, before I go there, Circles 19, the Spider-Man song. Play the Spider-Man song. Okay. This was the one right here that was really, and it's Hot 100 Artist Chart, which I get that. So with that being taken out of it, this is their thing. So I get it, but Michael Jackson being behind Janet and Mariah, and Michael Jackson should be number one. I will have to crash course in the numbers, and it's probably all here, but I just don't have the energy to go through it. I'm just baseline talking about what's here. This right here, Rihanna being 10 is crazy. Whitney Houston, it makes sense, and I think she would be there even if she would be in here somewhere even if she didn't pass away. But the some of the shocking people um, are the Drakes. He's 11, so he will probably move up next year, and and be Maroon 5 Taylor. Taylor not being on here. It said Taylor's what 21 now, so you know I was just kind of shocked. I mean, I guess that's the best way to put it, is that this is a shocking list, no matter how you look at it, even in terms of Billboard statistics. Just Billboard statistics is pretty wild, but just top you just see top 100 artists, not seeing Michael Jackson top three. It's just weird. Now, with that being said, the Beatles, Madonna, and Elton John being top three is hard to like totally argue that, because they're all, uh, incredible artists. With that being said, so those top three can't be too mad at. Elvis is, I just wouldn't ever put him top three. I mean, he probably does go over Mariah. I don't know if he goes over Stevie Wonder. Maybe he does. That's an argument. But I think just in the grand scheme of things, it would be like Michael Jackson, the Beatles, then Madonna, or Elton John. I mean, either or. I guess it would be just crunching the numbers. And I think it all goes with like statistics, and I think you could have been the best at what you did, but numbers matter. Shows, I think all that stuff, when you're top tier, you have to, everything goes in a bucket. I don't know. I don't know if Eminem Eminem's not even here, but I would really be interested where Eminem is. And I don't see the link to see them all. I don't see the link to. Maybe this is it. Oh, this is it. Oh, you gotta subscribe. It's only available to pro members. I ain't a pro. I ain't a pro member. I ain't a pro member, cuz. So I would be interested to see where Eminem falls. I see Drake is 11, which kind of makes sense, but Eminem, Taylor Swift, and those are the only people that really really hit Adele a little bit. I mentioned, wanting to review Adele's album, but didn't get to sit with it, so I probably won't review it. But some of those artists is the shocker for sure. But yeah, this was surprising to me. Even seeing Janet on here is not really arguing at all. Just didn't expect to see that. Didn't expect to see that. Whitney Houston's a little shocked too, but everybody else makes sense. Of Michael Jackson, man, 8 is just tough. Yeah, so that's that. This was 34. It's a good one. It was some little bit of everything in here and no sports. This might have been the second week. Is this second week in a row with no sports? That's probably not going to happen next time. Like I said, I'll probably be talking about those Detroit Lions. We got to get them off Thanksgiving TV. And that's got to be done. I could have made that overtime. Should have made that overtime. Didn't even think about it. But yeah, it was the Billboard top 10, all-time top 10 songs and artists. A lot of shockers to me on both of them. That's how I, talked about it. Right to repair issue is rounding the corner. We'll be able to fix stuff. That's cool. Rittenhouse Trial, a little bit of unfortunate, but when the dust kind of settles, you kind of be like, you look at the facts and you see where it was, and you put everything together. You kind of like, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then Thanksgiving. Speaking of Thanksgiving, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Has a great holiday season. I'll be saying that every single episode here until the end of the year. But enjoy the family, hug them tight, love them to death. Appreciate those conversations, those times. Live in the moment. Enjoy yourself. Be safe. And this is Coach D signing off on 34. And to the next one. Holla.